So good morning everyone, ohayo gozaimasu, welcome. My name is Dr. Sophia Patai. It's a pleasure to host you here on behalf of Johnson & Johnson Surgery Division. I'm the Medical Affairs Director for Asia Pacific and Japan. So we're thrilled you can join us today and hope you're enjoying your time in the beautiful city of Kyoto and wish you safe onward travels as the Congress ends today. We're using this time this morning to discuss a really exciting time for Johnson & Johnson. Our pipeline is so rich in innovation, and we're thrilled we can share with you two of our latest innovative products. Firstly, the iHance IOL, which some of you may have heard about if you came to the sponsored symposium yesterday lunchtime. So this is our modern-day monofocal, if you will, that's providing improved intermediate vision compared to a typical aspheric monofocal IOL. We'll also have the chance to discuss Synergy, which is our latest offering in the PC-IOL segment, which is combining all the great technology of an EDOF lens along with that of a multifocal. But I'm not going to dwell on this now. We're going to let our experts speak around this. So it's my great pleasure and privilege to introduce our expert speaker for today, Professor Dr. Jnj Iol For. He is a professor of ophthalmology at Heidelberg University, and he heads up the David J. Apple Center for Vision Research. Now, his professional interests are so varied, extending from biomaterials of IOLs to refractive surgery to ocular pathology. And as well as being an innovator, he's also an influencer. And in 2018, he was listed in the Ophthalmologist as one of the top 100 most influential ophthalmologists. In fact, he's at number 2. So, what I find astonishing, and I was just asking him earlier, is that in his career to date, he's presented or co-authored over 1,000 publications and presentations. And he said actually it started since 1986, since he's been a medical student. So he's got this really rich heritage of translating and communicating science, and that's why we're thrilled to have him with us here today. And also what makes him really, I think, amazing as an ophthalmologist is that he genuinely is here for our patients. And in fact, I was reading an interview with him in the Ophthalmologist, and it says, what drives you day to day? And Dr. Iol For said, the feedback you get from patients after successful surgery makes our job very rewarding. And I think that resonates with all of the doctors in the room here. So without further ado, Professor Iol For, thank you very much for giving us your time, and we look forward to hearing your insights on iHance and Synergy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was almost thinking I get an award now because so you start in Japanese. I would say annyeonghaseyo to the Korean people here, and good morning to anybody else. And it's a pleasure now to give you some of my new experiences because these products were just coming on the market. In Germany, we had a pre-launch of some of the lenses, so we could use the products already before. And I want to start with the iHance lens. So we looking at the monofocal sector. These are my disclosures. So I will quite a bit of research as you have with all the companies. I've got a pretty good idea what all these companies have in the pipeline and what kind of lenses they're looking at. What we look at if we look at a monofocal lens, first of all, we look at a platform. Yeah? So a lot of companies have like a signature platform, a basic monofocal lens, and the whole features, the material, the optical purity of the material, for example, that it's like a hydrophobic lens, which is glistening free, sharp edges, specific designs of the haptics. These are some key factors in a platform. And then they put a lot of different optics on this platform, going from monofocal to bifocal to EDOF, whatever. And in order that IOL functions very nicely in the capsular bag, as I said, there's this platform procedure where it really fits in there. The surrounding tissue, like the capsular bag, should react to that. We want to have clarity through the whole time. And all this has been developed with the TECNIS platform for the last 15 years. It really hasn't really changed much since 10-15 years because it's so good. I really have to say that. And we as a doctor, we use the lens, we do the IOL calculation, And usually we really get to the point, because after thousands of lenses, your IOL calculation is so good, and you know what to do. So that's very important, especially if you then translate that into premium lens. But there was not really much new things about the monofocal optic. And everybody thinks monofocal is monofocal. There's no difference, whatever company they are. We just coined these lenses monofocal. Look how many different multifocals we have. Completely different designs, whatever. But there's not much difference in the monofocals. A lot of people think. Yeah? And if you look at the Technis platform, and if you look at the new iHands, you can't see any difference, of course. Yeah? Because the changes are hidden in the optics. So the geometry is the same, the material is the same, everything looks the same. If you implant the lens, you cannot see a difference. I can show you a video how I implant iHands, but it could be a Technis lens, you won't see the difference. Yeah, it looks the same. The difference is the optic. Yeah? And this is a normal optic of monofocal Technis ZCB00, and this is the iHands, ICB00. And the idea is here to distribute the refractive power in a different way onto the optic. It's actually a high sphere, as we call it, and you have a continuous alteration of the refractive power from one edge to the center. It's not that you have a zone here or rings. Yeah, it may appear a little bit like this if you have some shimmering around it, but that's not how it is. And this translates into a slight increase in intermediate performance, which will have a pretty big impact for our patients. So it's not really based on conventional refractive zones like the old multifocal lenses that we have, or it's like based on spherical operations, like for example the Minivel, which is working on this principle to do a little bit more. It's just a high S-sphere design that you have. So they kind of create a little bit more pronounced rays here coming from the center of the lens, which gives you this little extra icing on the cake, let's put it this way. Yeah? This is, I think, a good description here. There were a couple of studies being done a couple of years ago already. I was also involved in that, multi-center trials in Europe. Here you see we had around 140 subjects, and they were planted with the ICB versus the ZCB, so Technis versus iHands. And don't expect spectacular things. Yeah? The important thing is in the detail here. Yeah? So if you look here just as the distance visual acuity, the mean logMAR, so 0, 0 is 2020 or 1.0. Yeah? You can see the difference here is just one line for the intermediate between iHands and the Technis. So intermediate vision here 0.19, 0.31, and uncorrected and distance corrected. Here's distance corrected, here's uncorrected. Not really spectacular if you look at it. But for a monofocal lens, it is a decent intermediate vision you have already. If you look at the binocular intermediate vision, you already get almost to 2020. Distance corrected and uncorrected 0.07, 0.07, yeah. So it's almost 2020. You see here the difference is a little bit more. So we always have a binocular summation with all kinds of lenses that we have, and this gives you another little advantage. If you look at the distance acuity, it is not really different between both of them. There's a slightly better vision in the Technis, but really, if we think about minus 0.02 and minus 0.06, this is nothing patient would consider, and it's also not statistically significant, even though they write here 0.5 lines but it's essentially nothing. Yeah? So the difference. So it performs like the Technis and the distance. Here you see the best corrected distance visual acuity and the uncorrected distance visual acuity for distance. And you really are quite good here. If you look at the contrast sensitivity, essentially there's no difference. They're both monofocals. So 100% sure you can be that you don't have an issue with that. If you look at the halo glare symptoms the patient have, again, you can see this means none. So between 70 to 80% have zero complaints. Then we have slightly moderate. Yeah? And I did a lot of studies comparing multifocal technology, EDOF technology, and also monofocal technology in terms of halo glare. We quantified it. And monofocal lenses can have a substantial amount of halo glare. Yeah? It's not that they are completely free of this. Yeah? And if you talk to your patients, even halos they can have. Yeah? Without any ring, or without anything, a monofocal lens can also produce halos around point light sources. So this is the normal profile of a monofocal lens, and there's no difference between the Technis platform and the iHands in terms of these side effects. What we saw with intermediate vision translates into a broader or larger zone here in the defocus curve. Yeah, it's like 1 to 1.5 diopters. And if you look at it from plus 0.5 to even more, to like minus 1.5 up to 2 diopters, you keep a very good visual acuity. And even if your lens is calculated and you end up plus minus 1 diopter, you still will have more or less 20-25 visual acuity or 20-20 visual acuity. Yeah? So it's a very forgiving lens. It helps you to land on the right spot. So for everyday activities, because vision is not only Snellen acuity, it's also what people are doing everyday hobbies, daily activities. The housewife was cooking and working in the kitchen, and then usually the distance is not 30 centimeters. Yeah? Cooking is like intermediate vision, yeah? Or any kind of thing. They have no difficulties, or they have a lot of advantages in that daily life situations. Yeah? And all these activities, they could enjoy without glasses, as you see here. They even could play piano independently if they have ever learned it or not. When you put in the lens, you can play piano. Or other instruments. So that's very good. So the iHands really enables the patients in the daily activity to perform with much greater ease. And that's really is what is important for the patients. Nobody really comes to you and says, in 6 meters I cannot see these letters. They usually come to you and say, I have some problems when I'm in my office or when I drive a car and so on. But it's not business. So this enhances that. And it's quite interesting because it really goes over the edge, and it kind of pushed us to think about what can we offer our normal patients, the monofocal patients. We make a big fuss out of these 2 to 5% multifocal patients that we have. Yeah? Half of this meeting here is only about this technology. 95% of your patients are monofocal patients. We really have to push a little bit more in that direction to enhance their performance. So, and I think we had the opportunity to have an early release of the lens. So I put in 150 lenses now, I think almost 200, when we analyzed these patients now. And you see it's a normal patient population, even some younger patients here, and some very old patients. IOL power was available at the beginning only from 15 to 25. Now we also have it for high myopic patients. So I also put in level 10 or 12 lens. The target spherical equivalent was minus 0.2 in my patients, but I also had myopic patients where I targeted on purpose to minus 2 or minus 2.5, which I think was good, and achieved was 0.13. So we have a pretty good outcome here in terms of achieving the right light refraction, and also the range was pretty much the same as the target refraction. These were the A constants we used when we did that. And these were not selected patients, like if you do a study, you have a lot of inclusion criteria. Yeah? They shouldn't have any other diseases, they shouldn't have astigmatism, macular, everything must be 100%. These are consecutive patients in the clinic, yeah? Like normal monofocal patients. So some of them have glaucoma, some of them have beginning macular degeneration. These are not all 20/20 cases that you expected. Nevertheless, interestingly, best corrected visual acuity was 1.0, with a certain range, of course. Uncorrected, even though we had some patients which were not directly targeted 0, was 0.14, so this is like 20/25 on average. This is quite good. Uncorrected intermediate, 80 centimeter was 0.2 logMAR, so this is 20/30, 0.63. Uncorrected near was also not bad, 0.3, which is 20/40, J2 or 3, something like this. For reading newspaper, at least Western style newspaper letters, you need, let's say 0.5 logMAR. Yeah, so it's above that. You can read with that actually, especially under very good lighting and binocularly. So it's not really bad. It's really quite good. Of course, corrected near visual acuity is the same as the corrected distance acuity. Maximum addition for the near was 1.9. And this is the defocus curve, and you can see here also very nice. This is almost like EDOF lens, yeah, with like 1.3 diopters, keeping a vision of 0.2 logMAR, so 20/30. And this is quite okay. This is just a little, as I said, extra icing on the cake. It's half or 3/4 of a diopter more than you would have with a normal monofocal lens, but it can make a huge difference for the patient. We also did the halo glare simulator, and the values here are fairly low, I have to say, compared to multifocal lenses. We did contrast sensitivity in these patients, and these are all normal values for mesopic and photopic conditions, and so on. That just normal values, nothing special here. And this is quite interesting because of the technology, especially if you compare that with other lenses. If the pupil get wider, I mean, at 3 millimeter, it's not a pinhole, but you have pretty much the same performance with all kinds of lenses. But the difference is when you move up to 4.5 or 5 millimeters. And then you see that the MTF, which gives you an idea about the optical quality, is much better with the eye hands compared to most of the other lenses. You really drop just a little bit, but this is not much significant. So this translates then at the end in a better contrast vision. Have much better contrast and with. Let's look at some clinical cases, because when you use a new technology, you say, okay, now this works, patient can see. And then you have some key points when you have some special patients. For me, I always remember something more if I have a face with it, like a patient. I put a certain lens in and he was very happy or was very, very problematic or whatever. So this is sometimes, for me, for myself, quite interesting. So I had a patient who came to me. He was 62 years. He came from the north of Germany and has done cataract surgery there, or actually I think it was a presbyopic lens exchange with oculentis lens. And I know this lens very well. I use it myself. It's a good lens. It's no question about it. The M+3. But he complained. His vision was 20/20, both sides. It was more or less plain no refraction. So a typical 20/20 unhappy patient. This is what can I do better? I'm sorry. But he was not, as I said, visual acuity was not really his issue, but all these things. Difficulties to adapt to dark light changes, extreme glare, large halos, which is unusual for this kind of optic. It is, but he had. And in general, extreme dysphotopsia. And he was not a crazy guy. He was not some kind of hysterical person. No. He was actually, the northern German people are pretty robust and they're really not like this. And he wasn't really. But when you do the halo glare simulator, This is what he says, what he sees every evening when he's driving the car. And you can imagine you don't really like that. Then imagine you are sitting in a car and it's raining and so on, and this will add to what you see already. So it's okay. So normally I would say to some patients when they complain, look into it, do some eye drops, do some surface treatment, and then see if they really want to get it explanted. But this guy, it was okay, I said, we explanted. So the question then is, one eye actually had already Jnj capsulotomy, so we had an opening. So the question is, how can we handle that? When we explant the lens, we have to put in the lens. Left eye, we have to see if we can put it in the sulcus or wherever, what kind of lens. And the question is, can we actually compensate for the loss of multifocality? There's no real three-piece multifocal lens. And also the problem is if you put that in and the lens is not fixated 100% in the capsular bag, you may have issues with decentration. So it's not really a good thing. And I was considering all kinds of options, going from like small aperture IOL, but which is very difficult also if it decenters. So it's not maybe in one eye, but not in the other. Just a simple monofocal lens, three-piece would be good. If worse comes to worse and we lose the capsular bag, then maybe artisan size retrocapillary. Or if everything goes good, why not the eye hands? And so these are like the ideas you have. So, but I have to say it was not really so difficult. The eye with the posterior Jnj laser, I did a lens removal, anterior vitrectomy, and then I put the AR40E in the sulcus with optic capture in the capsulotomy. So this was safe, everything is good. And the other eye, I could remove the lens without any issue and put in the eye hands in the capsular bag. You see there's a slight difference because of the location of the lens, otherwise the optic is more or less the same. We have a similar dioptric power. And it was like 2 years in the eye, but still, because it's a hydrophilic lens, you could get it out quite well. And luckily, there were no much adhesions. Sometimes here in this hole with this lens, you can have the cells growing in and then fibrotic, and then if you tear it, you have the whole cellular stuff. So this was okay. But then the funny thing was his visual acuity. Here you see the visual acuity, and look at the binocular. So 20/20 for distance, 0.63 for intermediate, and 0.8 for near. He was almost better off than he had before with the multifocal lens. And this is a combination. Even the spherical AR40E can give you a slight depth of focus. Not as big, but you can. And the combination of both lenses, and we hit really the spot. We were really at zero, more or less, with the refraction, and then we could eat up the 1.5 diopter that we get from the eye hands. So the patient was extremely happy, especially because of this. This was before, this was afterwards. So this was actually completely okay. And he took it for granted that he can see good in distance apnea. He didn't even comment on it. And the most happy he was about this. And so this is very important. And if you want to do, for example, some refractive surgery, monovision type of thing, you have this, and you have the performance of the monovision, you're out quite good actually. I have a, what's this? Okay, but this is just a general conclusion here on this case, I think we just talked about. And so this was a key point for me when I saw that. Then I had another patient, and they more or less came within 2 weeks, both of these. And again, it's just an accidental thing, but it was also oculitis lens because it's used in Germany very, very much. And this lady already got the surgery 5 years ago. And the oculitis comfort, which is also available here in Japan and a lot of Asia Pacific countries, is more or less a lens with 1.5 diopter near addition. It's sold as a EDOF lens, so to say. Before, when it came on the market, it was sold as a multifocal lens, so-called low-end multifocal. when Jnj started the symphony, they suddenly discovered that they will call it EDOF, yeah, because it's the same circuit. It's quite interesting. But she had cloudy vision and was unsatisfied with vision on one eye because the lens calcified. Yeah, we had a huge series of calcified oculentus lenses in Europe. Yeah, hundreds of thousands of those. And the funny thing is, she got those lenses within 1 week, 2014. And after 5 years, one lens opacified, the other was completely clear. So again, we had to make our thoughts. Visual acuity, even with the opacification of the lens, is still okay. Yeah? The problem is more the loss of light and the stray light you get through this. So visual acuity was 20-25, which is quite okay, and also refraction was okay. But we have to expand the lens, and then again, what kind of lens? And you can imagine, I was lucky that the capsular bag was otherwise intact, so after 5 years I could remove the lens, clean the capsular bag, and put the Eye-Hands lens very nicely in the capsular bag. So we did that a couple of months ago. And then the first thing was, when you asked her what is the difference between those eyes, she said there's no difference. Yeah? So for her it's the same. Yeah? So one lens has really refractive 1.5 diopter built in, and the other one is a monofocal lens. Yeah? But still also gets the 1.5. Yeah? And the visual acuity here, this is the visual acuity of the Eye-Hands lens, 1 month, 0.6, 0.8, 0.5. And then you also see a kind of neuroadaptation even to this kind of optic, which is quite interesting because they need some time to realize how it works. And of course, she also needs some time to get both eyes together because they are different optical principles. But you can see here, after 5 months, visual acuity was uncorrected 0.8, intermediate even 1.0, yeah, and near 0.63. That's great. Yeah. Binoculary, she had a very good outcome. Yeah. So this also showed me that this is more than just the monofocal lens. Yeah. It really has a huge impact here for this patient. This is the focus curve from this individual patient. Yeah. And this one is the Eye-Hands, the green one, which is actually better than the oculentus lens here in this case, but slightly. It's not much difference here. Yeah. And as we have said, here like 1.5 to 1.5 depth of focus we had reproduced. So that was my second key event when I used this. Then we put this patient for very sophisticated reading analysis, the so-called Salzburg reading test, where you have a computer with this, and there are cameras on the computer that measure the distance and your eye movement, everything. So a lot of things are measured, the contrast of the letters, the reading speed, all kinds of stuff. And there are some publications of multifocal lenses, because it was researched there also. A good fluent reading with multifocals is between 70 and 80 words per minute. Yeah? These patients with the Eye-Hand had something like 100 to 136 words per minute. Yeah? So they are even more fluent in reading compared to a diffractive multifocal lens, which you can explain because you have higher contrast and so on. So it should translate into that. Yeah? And compared to the oculentus, it's similar actually. Yeah? There are a few words less here, but a few words more there. So in general, it is a very good performance. Yeah, in terms of reading. This is halo glare simulator. Yeah. And also you see here, this lens doesn't have much halo glare. If you look here, halo setting is a little bit more with this. Intensity, halo a little bit more, but it's so gradual, you don't really see that if you look at it, even though the numbers are a little bit higher. This is a scale from 0 to 100, so we're still here at the low level. And glare, as you can see, 0 in both cases. So this is quite interesting. So we have a really enhanced intermediate visual acuity. It's not a multifocal lens, it's a monofocal lens with really some extra kick. Yeah? And if you do good surgery, if you have aligned your IOL calculation accordingly and you're really hitting the spot, then you will take advantage of it. If you don't hit the spot, it doesn't matter because you have this kind of room, this area where it will compensate and at least have very good distance acuity, and then you don't have anything for the near, and you have a very low profile of photic phenomenon. And as I said, the platform thing is important. No glistenings, no calcification, all this kind of stuff. Never ever we had that with Jnj lenses. I mean, I used them till 20 years. So all the optics were always very, very good. So, time for a break. Any questions? And remember how much you have to pay for it. Comments?
A couple of questions. First question is, have you had any experience using this lens to do some sort of mono vision? Does it work?
No, not on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we always have, when we do two eyes, we never have, exactly the same outcome. So sometimes you have a patient that's 0 in one eye and minus 0.5 on the other, or something like this. And that has no impact on distance acuity. Yeah, they both will see 20/20, but it will give you a little kit for the intermediate and near. Yeah. I wouldn't go so far to use this as a refractive lens because you really have to deliver. Yeah. So if somebody comes to me, he wants like completely spectrally independent, and he wants to pay a lot of money for it. Yeah, maybe including femto laser and everything. Yeah, then I really have to 100% deliver. Yeah, and you can do that here if you do it real monovision. Yeah, so not mini or micro monovision. Yeah, really targeting like -1 to 1.5. Yeah, in one eye and the other way almost. That would work. Yeah. In Europe, we are not so fond of monovision. Yeah, because it's not so accepted. And but if you are in a country or an area where a lot of myopic people and even some distances, anyhow, a lot of people who are used the whole life, some differences, it's no problem. Yeah. So you can do that. But I actually use it more, let's say also to show the patient that they get a better standard treatment in my clinic compared to some other clinics who are using it as standard monofocal lens. So it still will lift up your reputation or your business. Because they go outside and they say, oh, but just the normal lens, I didn't pay anything extra in our case here, and I still can see very well in all. Yeah, so this brings the patient to you, and then you still can sort them out and say, you for synergy or you for this or that. Yeah. But I would more emphasize the forgiveness in IOL calculation. Yeah. We haven't really done much of those, but I will see how this works with post-LASIK patient, because it will give me an extra half a diopter compensation, and I think I don't really need more than that in post-LASIK. Yeah, normally we can pre-calculate pretty okay, but there are sometimes refractive surprise, but it's not really like 2 diopters or something. Yeah, it's just not good if you're like plus 0.5. You don't want that. You want around 0. Yeah? So this could be a very good candidate for this, and it could be a good candidate for the pathology. So that's it. It's a monofocal lens. You can put it in glaucoma in AMD patients, and just AMD patient who cannot really see here, but still they have to have a living. They have to cook. They have to do things. Yeah? For this intermediate area, this is not really impacted by the AMD. Yeah? They use a visual field to handle this, and this is quite good for it.
Yeah, my question. Thank you for that presentation. I think the Symphony eyewear and the iHealth eyewear targeted for intermediate vision.
The Symphony IOL is one step further. Yeah. So it guarantees you excellent intermediate vision, 100% guarantee. Yeah. And it also gives you a quite decent near acuity. I would say in the European population, where we are not so myopic, they can read very well with Symphony. Yeah? It's a different story if we talk about -6, -8 type of people. They demand a little bit better near acuity. So in some of these patients, you might have symphony may be too weak. Yeah? But symmetry will be better. I will show you. So that's a solution. But nevertheless, it is one step further. It's a different league. Yeah. So you have Champions League, you have Bundesliga, and then you have the local one. Yeah. And this is how you can place your lenses. Champions League is the next one.
What of the side effect of the halo or the stubbles compared to the synergy and the IHM?
The comparison between symphony and IHANS, symphony is exactly between both. Yeah. So IHANS has less halo glare than symphony. Symphony has less halo glare than synergy. Yeah. This is really. This is a fundamental thing in optics. Yeah? As we say, there's no free lunch. Yeah? So if you extend your vision to all kinds of areas, then you will also extend a little bit the side effects. Yeah? You always have to compromise. You can minimize the side effects. Yeah? If you would sit here 20 years ago, yeah, with AO array or with pharmacia bifocal, yeah, you would see completely different halo glare effects. It's much worse. Yeah? And I remember the time, my very first paper in multifocal lenses was the 3M diffractive lens, which was a three-piece PMA lens. Yeah? You can open a capsulotomy, yeah? Put the lens, a multifocal lens, in the sulcus, yeah? With nice round edges. Yeah? And still the data were quite okay actually at the time. Yeah? And nobody cared about halo glare. They were all happy that patients could see without glasses distance and near. It was a sensation. It was great. Yeah? But we've learned so much over time, and the fine tuning every year is so advanced that symmetry lens or bifocal lens, low end lens has a much better performance and really decent halo glare. This is really. Compared to how patients come before surgery, yeah? If you would do a halo glare meter in an average patient that comes to your clinic, even a refractive clinic, yeah? Let's say you have somebody -6 and has contact lenses, yeah? And is getting presbyopic, and he's coming to you and wants refractive lens exchange. Let him do this thing with contact lenses on. Yeah? He will have a huge amount of halo glare. Yeah? And then let him have some dry eye, and he will have a lot of halo glare. And afterwards, with the surgery, it's nothing compared to that. Okay. Other comments? Yeah.
Among your series of 200 patients, how many of them were obstruction patients?
I don't really know.
But can you think of any contraindication in using this lens?
No, I cannot think of any contraindication. Yeah? Can you think of a contraindication of a technical lens? Apart from ruptured capsule and you don't want to put it in the sulcus. That's a contraindication. Yeah, you wouldn't put a one-piece lens purposely in the sulcus because it can cause some issues. But would you think of there's no contraindication from lens, so to say.
It's just from my perspective, because most of my patients are compromised. So
there
from one point, there shouldn't be any contraindication.
No, there should. The problem is, if I do a lecture about IHANS and if I tell you it has some intermediate, normally in your head you may click and you think about EDOF lenses and refractive surgery. Yeah, that's a little bit the problem when you talk about IHANS, because you have to mention that because this is the extra part you get, but it's not a symphony light or whatever. Yeah, it's a monofocal lens, and you just take advantage a little bit of these things. So this is a mental thing how you perceive it. That's why you come up with contraindications, because you are trained to say multifocal lenses have contraindications. And other questions?
Thank you for your wonderful presentation. If you have an only eye patient
Yeah.
that wants some degree of multifocality, then what
That could be an
limitation?
issue. Yes, that could be a good offer. I had a couple of last eye or only eye patients where I put the ions in.
So would you choose the IHANS? Would you
Yeah.
choose the ABU? Would you choose the Symphony?
In a last eye situation, if the eye is completely normal and healthy and whatever, yeah, my first choice would be eye hands. Yeah, I may debate about EDOF lenses. I wouldn't really be completely against it. But the problem is if you have a patient who has some issue then, yeah, with halo glare, and you're at the situation you have to exchange the lens, you put a certain risk to the patient. It's not that I cannot expand the lens and put another in. It could be, I would say 99% it would be fine. Yeah? If he has the right personality, if there are a lot of things are completely okay, I still would even do a symphony and vision like this. But then a lot of things have to come together where I would say the risk is very low and the benefit is very high. Well, eye hands is no problem. Yeah? It's a routine implantation. You missed the best part.
I'm coming for synergy. I heard your eye hands too.
That's why I had to switch. I wanted to start with
No,
synergy.
I asked.
Only because of you. Okay. So let's get back to the topic and talk about synergy. So, and when we talk about synergy, I'd like to really start actually with Symphony. Because we're going from one league to the other now, and that's the same. Because we are now moving from monofocal standard patient to the premium patient, presbyopia or premium carrying patient, and a lot of people know this curve here from Duane. Yeah, we all have in our textbooks. Yeah, he did. I actually have the original publication, even the original data in our archives in Heidelberg. And he used the so-called push-up method to see how much diopters you still have as the residual accommodative power. But if you look here, he still has, like when you are 50 to 60, you still have between 1 and 2 diopters of accommodation, which I don't really believe. I've never seen 60-year-old with 2 diopters of accommodation. They come with 40 and complain that they have only 1.5. So we looked at this and we had a objective method using wavefront technology, the so-called dynamic stimulation aberrometry, where we can stimulate a certain amount of diopters, and then measure it, the change of refraction, and also how good it is, how stable it is, and also how the pupil behaves, which is this here. Yeah? And you can really see, if you have a 24-year-old, you stimulate 2.5 diopters, you will go there, keep it, and when you leave the stimulus, it goes away. 37 is still okay, but it starts kind of trickling. 46 needs some effort to get there. 48 here start already shaking and cannot really keep it. And this is a typical on-off phenomenon people have when they get in the presbyopic age. They still can accommodate, but they cannot keep it for a long time. Yeah? Especially if they are supposed to read like an hour. Yeah, then they have problems, and then get dry eye and everything else. So if you do this curve and you compare this with Duane, this is how the real accommodative power is. And you are here in that age range, you are like at 0.36 diopters or something like this. Yeah? So they still have like a quarter or half a diopter of accommodation, yeah, in that age range, but not as much as Duane was telling us. The next, this is a German slide, but don't worry, this is what we call, this is the number of young people versus old people, and how the development in our society is. And already now we are at the turning point where there are more people older than younger. Yeah? And in 10 years, we will have almost double or 50% more old people than young people in Western communities. So this will guarantee our job. And I don't think we can really have enough eye doctors in 10, 20 years. It really will be an issue, at least in Europe. Anyhow, so what we have seen, when we see how premium lenses have developed, is something that we talked already about. The first version of most of these lenses, the Restore, the Technis lens, and also the first lenses, they had like 4 diopter of near add. Because 4 diopter of near add means between 2.75 and 3 diopter on spectacle frame. So that was the initial thing. So everybody was happy, people can see it near. Then they realized, so this was a focus to get near the thing. Then they realized they have halo glare. And they realized if you go down with the near vision, you have less halo glare. So the low end lenses started. AMO went to 3.25, then to 2.75. They got still enough reading acuity, they got less halo glare, and these almost have 3 trifocal character because they also could see intermediately quite okay. And Alcon expected at the same, they went down to 2.5 because they realized this is not for the average person is so good. And Oculentis went down at least into 1.5 even. And then the next step was, this is good, this is better, but what about intermediate? Because the whole life changes. Just the development of the iPhone and the iPad has completely changed the IOL industry. Because we have the demand. So this is how society drives you to develop it. That's very interesting. So Symphony has no end anymore, so to say. It's an EDOF lens. But optics is a trifocal lens, so they also target intermediate. Lenses here went to 1.5 near vision, which is also the intermediate space. So this is where the development went. But now we are at a point where we kind of overemphasize this, and we realize that we're not covering everybody. So let's look what we have on the market. You see we have different EDOF lenses at the moment. The Technis, the Lara, here, these lenses which are not diffractive. We have different trifocal lenses. You also know all these brands. And the differences between these lenses is not always how they put the diffraction on it. It's also what kind of material you have, what kind of design you have. And you might like this or that design more, at its advantages. But the basic idea is to attack distance and intermediate. Problem with diffractive and trifocal principles is going back a little bit to have more halo glare than you have with EDOF. So whatever you do, there's no free lunch. You always have to balance out. And even the definition of EDOF is kind of not really, there's no common sense on that at the moment. If you look at Wikipedia, you get this, which applies more for the photographer, what is the depth of focus, which you can actually take to look into this technology. There's a so-called iWiki where this reads like Symphony actually, how they describe that. This is more or less identical. So what kind of studies have we seen for depth of focus? These are some of my curves with the Technis lens. And you see the difference here to the iHands. iHands is 1.3 diopters. But here we talk about 2.25, 2.5 diopters. It's a different league in terms of intermediate and near. So you cannot really say iHands is the same as Symphony. And if you go at 2040 here, you have like 3 diopters. This is pretty good, very steady curve. And reading acuity. Again, here, this is what I told about this Salzburg reading test. This is machinery. And you also have pretty good results here with the Symphony. We are talking here uncorrected distance visual acuity, uncorrected intermediate, and this is 2020 here. So we are around 2020, better than 2020 for this. And uncorrected near acuity is not that bad actually, as you can see here. So on average, you get pretty good results with that already. but you don't have really the certainty that in every patient it applies. Yeah? The more hyperopic they are, the more they appreciate. The more myopic they were preoperatively, the less symphony works. Yeah? So there is an unmet need in symphony to make sure that the near QD is always good. So what's new then? Well, if we look at this, to look at the next generation, and we have to combine these principles to have best of both worlds. Yeah? So, best of both worlds. Let's look at this. So we have the multifocal technology, which gives us very good distance, very good near acuity. The diffractive design is pupil independent. We have the symphony technology that gives us the continuous vision, especially the intermediate sweet spot, which a lot of people demand. And with the symphony, a lot of other technologies were introduced. Compensation for spherical aberration is already known. Technis was the first who really did that. And so this is known to everybody. But the compensation for chromatic aberration was pushed very much by Jnj. And really gives also an extra effect on that. So the synergy combines both technologies to have a very good high contrast vision, very smooth intermediate, and you don't fall down at the intermediate space, you keep that. Yeah? These are the focus curves that you would like to have here. And what does that mean? If you look at a 3 or 5 millimeter pupil and you work on the correct spherical operations, you already see an improvement, especially at the large pupil. Yeah? So there's some vision, whatever. Yeah? So this is already much better than this. And if you then add spherical operation and chromatic operation correction, then you really get a much sharper image. Yeah? And you are much less dependent on surrounding light. So this is one of the biggest advantage of the lens, helping, as I said, there's no free lunch, but there are little tricks to get a little piece for free, in optics. So this enhances very much the performance. You all know that the chromatic aberration correction, I think I don't really need to talk about that, that from the wavelength, the blue part is before and the red behind the retina, so to say, and you this is what we call the dispersion, and we try to keep the dispersion very small. Not too small, because you still want to have a little range, but to sharpen up the image. And don't use contrast, enhance contrast. So another thing is that there's a violet light filtration, which also blocks the shorter wavelengths. It's not a blue filter. It's called OptiBlue, but it has nothing to do with blue light. I think Jnj has to change the name because it's very confusing. I don't really know why, but I think it's like a patent reason or something. But this has also the advantage that it reduces a little bit light scatter. Every hydrophobic lens has an inherited small thing of producing stray light in a very small way, which is also depending a little bit on the blocking area of what you use, and the violet filtration helps you in that. So this is from the studies from Europe and others, one of the defocus curves, and the idea is not to go up and down, but to stay in this zone here between 2020 and 2025. So you have smooth vision through 3 to 4 diopters. If you go and take this, then you have 3.5 diopters of depth of focus, and there's more or less no change in that area here. That is the important thing, synergy, to have that done. If you look at some of the others, it's a little bit more bumpy up and down, because you have intermediate and near and distant. And the thing is that the light distribution is more or less equal over these diopters. Whereas you now for like Zeiss trifocal, you have something like 50% only for the intermediate of the light, and maybe 40 for distance and 30 for near and 15 for intermediate. It's not so much actually in all the trifocals. The energy of light which is used for intermediate is very low actually. So this is it performs or even outperforms the trifocal lenses. Yeah? And this is what we were missing with Symphony. Yeah? Outperforming trifocals in certain things, and especially Symphony was better between 0 and -1 or 1.5 diopters. If you see all the studies also from competitors, and then it dropped down at 2 and 3 diopters. Yeah? And so we want to combine that. And the funny thing is, again, the first patient. Yeah? If you have new technology, you put it in one patient. If it's no good, you kind of don't want to go on. Yeah? So it's always kind of critical. And this is so funny. I have to say it. So we had a 50-year-old patient. She came for presbyopic lens exchange. So when we try it, then we really go for it. Yeah? Not any 85-year-old grandma with a cataract. Yeah? She will not complain. Yeah? But I don't get any response from this. I don't know if this is a good lens or not. Yeah? So if this patient works, then it has potential. This is what we thought. So you could see this patient had corrected visual acuity preoperatively of 1.0, yeah, or even better. Yeah, minus nochmal, and refraction was hyperopic. Yeah, so she complained because she needed 2.25 for near addition. She wanted to be spectacle independent. Yeah, because near acuity was 0.74, so very bad. It's not a bad candidate because she's hyperopic, she's in the right presbyopic range, she doesn't have much astigmatism or something, she needs already reading glasses, so she already is annoyed by it. Yeah, this is a good. So, and she has excellent visual acuity if you correct everything, so she has high potential to get very good visual acuity if everything works. So we did the surgery. And I got a little help from Jnj because I wasn't 100% sure how should I target this. And they did the calculation with the Barrett formula, and 23 and 23.5 were around 0. In my calculation, I was slightly hyperopic with this refraction, but there are two things. First, they have a lot of experience with the Barrett and told me this is quite good. And secondly, we didn't mind if we end up a little bit hyperopic. Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, so, but this is something when you start with a lens, talk with Jnj that you align your IOL calculation accordingly, that you can be sure that this makes it's no big deal to ask them, and can you do also a calculation, and let's have a look. If you want to start with the first patient.
Same A constant as with the thickness.
Here I have the same A constant which I use for the thickness. Yeah, and this is a printout where you have holiday, SRKT, Huygens, holiday 2. Yeah, so and we are arranging here like Huygens is SRKT and holiday are pretty much the same as Barrett here. Yeah, and Huygens is a little bit less, a little bit. Asking for a little bit more power, half a diopter more power. But I have to say that I use more holiday 1 actually than Huygens in my population. Yeah? But if I start with a new lens, I get a printout of, I even do some more calculations, and then I have the whole view, so then I decide. And then next patient, I may do the same, and then it kind of gets automatically. Yeah? But it's important at the beginning, to do that. And she had 0.73 diopter here at 169 and 0.56 diopter at 16 degrees. 0.73 at 169 is, I want to reduce that, yeah? But I don't need any fancy stuff, I just do one axis incision, yeah? So this gives me quarter of a diopter or whatever less, so that I'm below 0.5. Now, this is the target below 0.5 residual astigmatism. Oops. Okay. Yeah. And, oh, this is a video, doesn't mind. No, it doesn't. Okay. What I want to show you is, I think I have also a photo of it. Yeah. I really use the variant system to locate the exact site of the incision and then do my incision. In this case, because we want to make everything right, we did that. Yeah? So incision was at 79 degrees for the right eye and then 106 degrees for the left eye. Yeah? May not look so fancy, but it's, it's another quarter of a diopter we will gain. So then after 1 month, we did the surgery, patient recovered, everything was fine. First day already, she could see quite well, but I want to show you the data now after 1 month. Uncorrected distance visual acuity, minus 0.06, minus 0.1, so better than 2020. Binocular minus 0.1, so very good. 1.25 to 1.6 on the scale. At 4 meters, we say even better. We measure both. Corrected is hardly not better, because she was more or less ametropic here, plus 0.25, minus 0.2. So we only had a quarter of a diopter astigmatic residual, which is fine, which is actually good. I like it. Uncorrected near visual acuity, minus 0.1, minus 0.06, binocular minus 0.16. This is the last thing under the chart. I cannot actually control that. I have to get the magnified printout to look. Oh yeah, okay. This is unbelievable. Uncorrected intermediate is actually minus 0.2 log marks. This is 1.6 on the decimal scale. So I was very impressed. I was really very much surprised about that. And it was neither attended nor whatever, but if you go back, we see she had already pre-operatively minus 0.04 the best corrected distance acuity. So everything went well, calculations, but then she should get to that point. And she did. So I was really impressed. So her right eye defocus curve, we were, as we said, between 0.2 to minus 0.1, and we kept this almost to 4 diopters. The other eye was like this, actually between minus 0.1 and plus 0.1 for the whole area. And binocularly, she actually even went up more. That's why she had this excellent near acuity here. You see that quite nicely, and a very good visual acuity. So, combining the EDOF principle with the diffractive technology, enhancing image quality with chromatic aberration technology, pupil independence, then we really have a lens which is optimal condition. She has some halo glare, but she is overwhelmed by the vision, so she doesn't really has a big issue with that, but she says and acknowledges that she has halo glare, but after 1 month already, she is made herself comfortable with that. So the interesting thing is that usually you see all these slight hits from the companies, and theoretically, they do on the optical bench, you should see this and this and this and this, and then it really is like this. This is quite interesting. So we were very, very interested. Now we are very interested now to do more of these patients to see can we reproduce that, and what about patients that have not over 2020 preoperatively, but I still think we will have excellent results. So this is a huge competitor to the trifocal lenses now. See how this will develop. This is my experience with Jnj. Thank you very much. Questions? No questions. You don't believe me? That's why.
Thank you for a great presentation. So far we have heard the good stuff with regards to the lens. Any unexpected, with your limited experience, obviously, any unexpected side effects which you need to be aware
No,
of?
it's good that you say unexpected, yeah, because I expect halo glare, yeah, similar to symphony, something like this. I don't really expect more than we have a symphony, yeah, but also I don't expect less, yeah. So similar in that region. Otherwise, maybe we have to fine-tune IOL calculation, or we have to get advice from all the users then. Is plus 0.1 the right target, or is it minus 0.1? Yeah? In Asian population, where they are myopic, maybe you should go for minus 0.1 or 0.2. In European, maybe you go to plus. Yeah? In general, they recommend going slightly in plus. Yeah? So also if you talk to the engineers in Groningen and so on, they think if you calculate the lens, don't go to the minus, go to the plus. Because it is so much potential for the near ad is so strong that you can afford to go a little bit there to make sure that you have a good distance acuity. It's good if you have a high distance acuity, then your whole defocus curve starts at that level. Yeah? So if your uncorrected distance is 20/40, then your defocus curve won't help you because you're going down. So you have to aim for the best distance acuity, then all the other stuff will stay in that zone between 0.1 and whatever. Yeah, so I think we won't have any different performance in terms of IOL decentration compared to Symphony or to other diffractive lenses. So you need a good capsular bag, a nice rexis to center it well, but this is what we're doing anyhow with premium lens patient. Yeah. So I don't see really much unexpected stuff. Yeah, so there's this thing. Yeah.
Professor, do you expect less glare and halo than other trifocal lenses?
That is a good question. I don't know. Yeah, I just have one patient. Yeah, I wouldn't assume that you have a big superiority in that. Yeah, but definitely no inferiority. Yeah, so I don't think you will have much less halo glare with panoptics also. Yeah? I would assume the performance is somewhere similar. Yeah? I may be wrong, but if I'm wrong, then I'm under-promising. Yeah? Because we still will see that. The initial study, what they did was a questionnaire. Yeah? And that's a different story. If you just ask the patient, do you have halo, do you have glare? You don't know much about the intensity, the size of the halos, and so on. So for this, I would like to do my test setup to really quantify that. Yeah? The incidence of halo glare, I don't remember exactly, but it was very similar to other trifocal lenses. Not worse, but also not better. Somewhere in the same range.
So, one question, back to the RR calculation. In that case, you select the first start near emitropic end, or you just use
Yeah. We can go back here actually. So when I look at my calculation here, yeah, and we are our calculation, we just use our TechNet calculation. For this eye, for example, a holiday would say 23 diopters with more or less emetropia. Yeah, this is plus 0.09, which is similar to Barrett, which is minus 0.01. So this is the same. So holiday 1 and this align quite well. Also, SRKT was also very near. Hygus here was a little bit higher, 0.39 diopters, and Holiday 2 was also the same. Hygus actually was the only outliner here. Yeah. All the other calculation programs said more or less 0, and so this is why we took that. Yeah. You can also take this here. This would be okay, 22.5. I think company wouldn't really object if you're like a quarter of a diopter in plus with this lens. But because I had a little bit variation here, we altogether decided to go for this. Normally, recommendation would be the closest to 0 from the plus side. Yeah? Oh, can I say that? I think it's... Is that okay? It's not okay. He doesn't change that either. It's okay. Yeah? We will see, as we see some studies, I'm pretty sure there will be some people that, there are so many regional differences. Yeah? People size and Indian people is different from Swedish people. Yeah? Iris color and so on. All these little things have influence on the IOL calculation and on performance. Yeah? So APHCRS is an interesting meeting because we have such a variation of areas where some of these technologies we have to look at different perspectives. But this is a general recommendation based on studies in Europe. Yeah, but this is just a video how I implant the lens. You don't really see much. You don't need to show. That's okay. Because from time it's okay. Here I just wanted to show that I looked at the axis to minimize a little bit the astigmatism. I don't know when is Jnj Toric supposed to come to the market. I don't know. Not yet. But this would be the next question everybody is asking. Yeah, Jnj Toric. I'm pretty sure it's not. Yeah, it's no issue. I mean, you have all the other lenses also as a toric version, so it's not difficult to make. It's more a regulatory aspect to get it approved.
Can you share with us the science behind Jnj a bit more than the constitution of
That's all I can share with you at the moment. This is, I'm pretty sure next year when this is more widely used, I can show you more pictures from the optics. But for this kind of pre-release private session, this is all I'm allowed to show you. You can come to you can visit me in Heidelberg. Put the lens in our optical bench, then you can see yourself. I didn't tell you anything.
If it's a violet-locking lens, is the lens yellow in color as well?
You can hardly see that. If you know it and if you look for it, and if you put a completely plain other lens beside it, you may see a tint of difference. Yeah? But if you look on the slit lamp, I don't think a lot of people will see that. But if you have it in your hand and you do like this, you might think you can see it a little bit. Yeah? It's not purely white, so to say, but it's completely different from like Artisoft yellow lens. It's a completely different story. Okay.
So, thank you very much, Professor Ockfeld. I'd like to thank you very much again. We deeply appreciate your insights on explaining the technology and your clinical experience with the lens as well. I think what I took away from this is, firstly, you explained the optics so nicely. There's no such thing as a free lunch, indeed. I know with iHance, we get a little extra icing on the cake.
Yes.
And with Synergy, the full range of vision, but no compromise on the contrast. So maybe a kaiseki, if you will.
Yes, yes.
So with that, I'd like to thank you all very much for coming. These products are rolling out across your region. So if you do have any questions about when these innovative IOLs might approach your market, please reach out to your sales representatives and they will align on the commercial timelines. But from J&J, we're really committed to bringing you truly innovative products that can really help enhance patient care. So with that, we both wish you safe travels back home, and please enjoy the rest of the meeting here and have a good lunch now.
Sorry.